Well, you got to cross your fingers. All right, guys.
It says live.
We are live now. Here we go. All right, top of the show. Welcome back to another episode of This Week in Photo. I am your host, Frederick Van Johnson. Joining me today to discuss a few interesting stories, including a story that broke just a couple of hours ago here in California. I'm joined by Mr. Aaron Nace from Flurn.com and Mr. Shiv Verma from Shiv Verma Photography. Hey, guys. Welcome back to TWiP.
Hey, Frederick. Good to be here.
It's good to have both of you guys. Aaron Nace, you, my friend, have not been on the show in forever, and it's been forever. I thought I was gonna run into you at WPPI. You didn't come to WPPI. I don't think you were there.
I was working on my tan instead.
Yeah. doing other stuff, But welcome back, man. It's good to see you and hear you and following you on your site. Yeah. How's Flurn going?
Real good, man. Yeah, really good. We're just we're in our new studio here in Chicago, and yeah, we're in one of those like growth periods. Things are really excited. Basically, like taking everything that we've done in the past, bringing in some like spectacular talent, and figuring out what we can do better in every step of the way. So
yeah, it's interesting. I wanted to have you on because we did a show a couple of weeks ago, I think it was, and it was right when Kelby had announced that he was reorging and. The part of the gist of that show was around lynda.com and Kelby and what's happening in the industry. And I posited, I didn't bring up Flurn, but I posited that Lynda got acquired, Kelby's reorging, Creative Live is still around. So does that mean that Creative Live is a viable business model? But I would argue your business model is pretty strong too, right? So you're still cranking. Everything's going well at Flurn.
Yeah, we're cranking. Things are going well. I mean, we keep making free videos and people keep watching them, so that's good. As long as that keeps going, it's good.
It's a good model. It's a really good model. Well, congratulations on all your successes. I know
you're
one of the hardest. You're like the James Brown of Photoshop, the hardest working man in show business over there.
Man, thanks so much.
You're welcome. Well, speaking of working hard, Mr. Shiv Verma is always here, always the hard work and always traveling. Shiv, what's going on with you, man?
Actually, not traveling right now. I've been pretty dormant for a while, which is a good thing. And doing a lot of stuff with PPA, doing their regional programs for them with X-Rite and Wacom. And that's been a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And it's just a few weeks we start traveling again.
Yeah. Well, traveling's good. It's for me. Both of you guys travel all the time, and for me, I'm just now starting to break free of the gravity that is my office, and travel and start traveling. Because once you get into the outer solar system and start traveling, it's hard to break. It's hard to not travel. I don't know. Shiv, do you find that it's hard to get out, but once you're out, it's like okay.
No, it's not hard to get out. I'm always itching to get out. It's like,
yeah.
I see. Now you have another thing, right? You've got your drones.
Mm-hmm.
Now you need that big drone,
mm-hmm.
and then you can leave any time. It'll just pick you up and carry you.
Yeah, that's the future. I was born too early for that connection.
It's going to happen, Frederick, while you're still young enough.
Well, we'll see. We'll see. All right, guys, let's dive into the show. Lots of stuff to talk about this week. Story number one is about Instagram. They're switching their feed from chronological to, quote, best posts first. So this is what Bruce wrote in the notes for the lead-in. He says, more changes are coming this way to Instagram as the company announced it will begin changing the order of how images appear in your feed from reverse chronological to an order based on relevancy of the posts. Is this good or bad news for photographers who use Instagram to market their work? Aaron Nace, what do you think? I like chronological order myself, like first in, first out. I mean, this popularity thing sounds like a popularity contest. What do you think?
I'm confused a little bit, to be honest. Okay, so if someone goes to Instagram.com/Flurn, are they going to see my photos in some fancy order, or is that going to be regular?
I think the way, and correct me if I'm wrong, Shiv, or the listeners, the way that I read this is if it's popular, because they said the average Instagram user misses about 70% in their feed, so they're trying to bubble that stuff up. So the way that I see it is if it's a popular post and lots of people are reading it and clicking on that post or clicking through on the links in that post, then it will be shown to more people because now it has more weight. What I fear is the heavy hitters, like you guys are heavy hitters, or let's say in this political season, one of the candidates decides to start posting on Instagram. That's all we're going to see, and that's going to be at the top of our our feeds every single time. Because if they're not adding any logic in there, like Frederick likes these kinds of things, therefore we're going to bubble things from Flern to the top or from Shiv Verma to the top versus the leading candidate stuff to the top. And it's going to make Instagram less useful for me. I don't know. Shiv, what do you think?
I think to some extent you're right, but I think the way they define it, it's going to be based upon what you typically like and what you like to see.
Okay.
Now, that algorithm, the way it's going to work, from what I understand, is also depends upon the person posting it and how well he metadatas it, tags it, all that good stuff. So the idea really is to put things that you are more interested in your face first.
Yeah, but how does how do you do that programmatically? That's never been like Google's been. I mean, Google has it kind of with their feed.
Well, Facebook has it. Yeah, Facebook has
and Facebook ads, but that's creepy to me. I just want give me like first in, first out. Just give me a timeline. If I miss it, I miss it.
Yes.
I don't know.
And I think you're right, and I think that's what a lot of us who are, I shouldn't use the term seasoned, but have been in this for a long time. Mm-hmm. Let us decide what we want.
Right.
And don't shove things down our face. I mean, that's something that I find bothersome. Just like the ads, they appear. I mean, you go to B&H and you look at something, and for the next 10 days you see that thing popping up in front of you all the time.
Right.
It just drives me up the wall. I'm not interested.
It's creepy. That's why I say it's creepy. Like what was I searching for? Oh, I was on this whole tangent for like doing sous vide cooking. Yeah. Right. So. I bought a sous vide thing off of Amazon. Of course, I got tagged. So now every site I go on that's serving up ads, I see like cooking stuff now. I'm like, well, I'm also interested in drones and a bunch of other things, guys. And and I've already bought that thing, so you don't need to keep telling me to buy that thing. Yeah. I don't know, Aaron. What do you think? I mean, is this like? First of all, are you active on Instagram? And if so, are you just going to change the way you change the way you use it?
Yeah, so Flern, recently we actually just migrated, we've had weekly photo contests for years, and recently we just migrated them completely over to our Instagram. So every Monday we do a new post where we'll post like, this theme is animals. It actually launched today, so it's like hashtag Flern contest, hashtag Flern animals, and so we'll do that every Monday, and then 3 times a week we pick a winner. We put that on our feed, and then the next Monday, we have a new contest. So if people aren't seeing our posts chronologically, it's going to. I don't know how it's going to impact our contest because the themes come out every single Monday, and if it starts displaying in some weird order, then it's going to really throw us up for a loop.
Yeah, it's like I like animals, so I'll see your post. But somebody else who likes faces will not see it.
Well, I've got to think they've thought through the hashtag piece of this has to be kind of the wild card in this because hashtags are used all over the place and they can't really mess with that. So if there's a hashtag Flern contest hashtag Flern animals and someone is searching specifically on those hashtags, I've got to imagine that it's going to pull up the right stuff. But if you just look at your Instagram feed without any sort of parameters in there, it's going to try to make a best guess and show you what it thinks you might like.
Exactly.
I don't like that. It's too much. Come on, just let it be an assembly line, or a roll of toilet paper. I don't know.
Well, it's kind of fun, like having it be chronological. I think if you missed something, then too bad. You missed out. It's time to get on with the rest of your life.
Yeah, but here you may never know that you missed it. You just don't know it. It's there. It was ever
Which is fine. That's called life, right? I mean, I'm sitting here having an awesome conversation with you guys, but I'm sure there's all sorts of interesting things happening in San Francisco right now that I don't know about. right?
Right.
I can't be there and here at the same time, and it's perfectly okay. I don't need an algorithm telling me, hey, Frederick, there's a huge party happening at the Fillmore that you
And
might
you're
want to
missing
be
it.
at, that you're missing it. I don't need to know about that. Let me focus on what, the task at hand. I don't know. When I start talking like that, it makes me feel like, I start shaking my fist in the air like the old man. In my day, we had chronological Instagram feeds, and the self-driving cars were just the future thing.
And they took it away.
Yeah.
And they took it away.
We used to drive our own cars in my day. We had gas, and we loved it.
Oh boy.
Yeah, it's gonna change. I don't know. It's interesting. I like what you're doing though, Aaron, with using the hashtags for the contest thing. That makes a lot of sense, and how to get people to submit while also engaging in your feed, right?
Yeah, it's going really well. We've just share some numbers with you guys. Why not? Like in the last 5 weeks, we've grown by over like 10,000 Instagram followers.
What?
Just by converting our contest over to Instagram. So.
Wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
The nice thing too is like we honestly we spent like quite a bit of time thinking like, okay, how do we really do this well? And the nice thing is that the people who win our contest, we repost their images. So being able to post other people's like spectacular images on our feed is like it's a really like beautiful natural way of posting great images on our feed. And
Now, how do you do that? Like how do you repost someone's images? Do you use a third-party service to repost, or do you get it from them and then repost it to your feed? How do you do that?
Yeah, so in our terms of service of the contest, it's clearly stated that, by posting to the contest, you give us permission to, upload your image.
Mm-hmm.
So, well, make sure you guys say that if anyone's else planning on doing something like this.
Yeah, because I am. Because you see me like making notes. I'm like, how can we do this on TWiP?
Yeah. And then we just do a screenshot. Like on an iPhone, you can just do a screenshot, crop it down, and then submit the image. Make sure and we hashtag them, and everything like that. But it's
Cool.
it's really simple. And then we use Hootsuite for everything. Like if we do it from the desktop computer, and then there's a Hootsuite app as well. So for scheduling.
I haven't used Hootsuite in so long. It's been like I think maybe 18 months or 2 years since I used Hootsuite. And when I used it before, it was strong. Hootsuite, for those that don't know, is an application. It's a cloud-based application that allows people that are professional social media people to manage multiple accounts, and if you need to, you can schedule out posts, and you can watch all of your feeds and do all sorts of magical things that you can't do from just a client app or even a web-based app. It lets you dive a level deeper, like with multiple users. Like Aaron, I would assume you've got a team there that has access to the Hootsuite account, and they can all do things on the Flurn account, right?
Yeah, we do. And I would say, even if you're not a professional Instagram user, it's, if you just type into Google best times of day to post on Instagram, it's listed out by day of the week. So you can see, okay, it's Tuesday, the best time of day is like, 4 p.m. If you get a post you want to, get a bit of traction on, it just makes sense to post it out during that time. So you can schedule it out using Hootsuite, and that way, you just get a little reminder on your phone at 4 p.m. says publish, and you're good to go. So, you can use it to just be a little bit like more calculated about how you post. Even if you don't have like a crazy big team or anything, you can just you could use it for scheduling.
Yeah, and back to the coming full circle. Shiv, I want you to chime in on this, dude. But coming in full circle, this whole popularity-based bubbling up to the top of the algorithm or the top of your Instagram feed, I wonder how that's going to affect that whole thing, Aaron. Like the whole, these are the most popular times of day to post. If they change the algorithm, is all that out of the door now, and we have to rethink what the most popular times of day to post is, because it's different. Because it's a matrix now. It's based on the category that you're posting in, and people that are interested in A like to hear about it at 7 p.m., whereas people that are interested in C like to hear about it at 9 a.m. So, I don't know, Shiv, what do you think? Is it all out the window? We have to rethink it?
Yeah, I hope not. I mean, Instagram's not that stupid. I mean, they've built up a huge base. And, look what's happened. Just Aaron saying that, in a short period of time, it's mushroomed into a huge sort of opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm sure they're thinking about those things, and if certain posts or certain activities are time-based, day-based, the algorithms have to work in tandem with all of that. I mean, you just can't throw all that away. It's like saying, well, Google Analytics, all right, let's change the algorithm. Now, all the analytics that we have for you are now out the door. I mean, it's not going to happen. I don't think that's going to happen.
Well, actually, they do that quite often.
Yes, I know they do. But I mean, there's still some preservation of the important data. And I think from what Aaron's doing in the scheduling and things will probably still hold, and the audience that he's got is not going to go away. They'll still find it. I mean, if once you get hooked on something, you'll find a way to get back to it.
Right.
So,
right. Yeah. That's true in many areas of our lives. So looking at Instagram versus Twitter, which one or let me rephrase the question. Has Instagram replaced Twitter for you guys in terms as the primary, like your desert island app? If you could only have one app and it was Instagram or Twitter, which one would it be? Aaron, what do you think?
Yeah, I would say for me, Instagram for sure. I was pretty active on Twitter a few years ago, and just given our industry, I mean, we're image driven, right? People just want to see images, and I think Instagram really is the leader there. The tough part about Instagram is it's relatively difficult to monetize. If you are running a small business, driving conversions directly from Instagram and monetizing is still like pretty difficult to do. But it was a lot easier to do with Twitter. You could just provide a link and track that link and everything like that. Instagram really doesn't have that. Moving forward, they're talking about doing that sort of stuff, for paid services and things like that. But I just think for in the photography industry, I think Instagram makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, definitely. Shiv, what about you? Instagram or Twitter?
Yeah, I agree with Aaron. The problem really is the monetization, and there's no two ways that you can't forgive anybody for that. It has to happen. I don't know why it's taking so long for them to really implement that. So where monetization is concerned, I think Twitter still is a little bit ahead as far as I'm concerned. But I clearly find and agree with both of you that from a photography point of view, there is nothing better than Instagram. You can build a huge base in a very short period of time. And I think that's, so where am I leaning? Yes, I'm leaning more to Instagram. But I don't want to give up the fact that Twitter does allow you to monetize.
Yeah, and it's interesting because one of the things I want to start experimenting with on Twitter is the whole Twitter cards thing. I don't know if you guys have seen that, but it's the concept is that you can, especially if you integrate it with, say, a MailChimp or Aweber, your email service provider, with Twitter cards, because Twitter already knows your email address, you can have people essentially one-click subscribe to your list instead of clicking, get a confirmation email, click on that, and now they're on your list. They can, within Twitter, just click on something, and boom, they're on your list.
I was not aware of that.
Yeah, Google it. Yeah. It's called Twitter Cards, and it's I think it's ill-marketed because you weren't aware of it.
No, I was not aware of it.
But it's there. It's there. There's controversy around that too. The whole, the whole double opt-in thing in the marketing world, where with email you should ask people twice. They click on something and then they get an email to confirm that they're actually themselves. With Twitter, with the Twitter cards, it kind of obviates that, and it's, like I said, almost like a Amazon one-click purchase, but in Twitter for getting on a list. So it's kind of cool. I like it from a marketing standpoint. I like it. It
saves a step, but actually saves 2 steps, and that's a good thing.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, guys, let's take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk about some new hardware that Apple has announced, or they announced this morning, which could scarily mean the end of color correction control for photographers. How was that for a salacious quick cliffhanger?
Oh, no.
Yeah.
I know. Aaron's like, oh, my God.
I'm out of a job.
All right, here we go. All right, guys, we're back with story number 2 this morning at 10 a.m. Pacific time here in the United States. Apple did an event where they announced a couple of new things. They announced an update to their iPad line, so essentially a smaller iPad Pro, which has lots of new horsepower and some other bells and whistles. a lower price on their Apple Watch and some new bands, an update, thank you Apple, to Apple TV OS that gives us things that should have been in there when they launched the thing, like folders and Siri voice recognition and all that stuff. So it's finally ready to, I think it's ready for prime time now. They announced an iPhone SE, which is essentially an iPhone 6s, but smaller. It's 4 inches, and it's cheap, like $399, relatively speaking, and some other software changes. So the interesting thing that I thought was pertinent for this show was that they, on this new iPad, and I would assume that this is going to make its way into their other iOS devices in true Apple form, on this new 9.7 iPad Pro, it has this thing called a True Tone display. So, and what it says here is it employs 4 ambient light sensors that will check the lighting in the room and adjust the display for color accuracy. And that's all I'm going to read about that. So think about that. These millions and millions, I don't know if it's a B yet, but at least hundreds of millions of devices that people that primarily access their content through, with these new devices, they will shift based on the ambience light in the room, which is so. Aaron, I'm going to throw this to you first. You are Mr. Flern. You are Mr. Retoucher. You live in pixels and bit depth and color correction. Does this scare? It scared the bejesus out of me when I saw the demo. I was like, well, how can you ever create something that's accurate now? What do you think?
Yeah, well, I use on my desktops, I use a program called Flux. It's fl.ux, and what that does is, if it's based on your location, and basically after the sun sets, it warms your display. So instead of having like a super bluish bright display at night, it warms it to like a softer yellow, and it makes working on the computer much easier. Obviously, you don't want to photo edit, while your screen looks really yellow. But as far as just like type and things like that, it really is easier on your eyes. And it seems like Apple's just trying to do their version of that.
Which is great. Yeah.
I think it's cool. I think it's really cool.
But you think it's cool. Now, looking at some of the fantastic work that you do on Fleur, those tutorials, and if anyone sits through one of your tutorials, they will immediately grok that you are meticulous when it comes to working on the pieces that you work on. So, looking at that, and I was like, I'm so glad Aaron's on the show tonight, because we're going to talk about this. If you spend 3 hours on a piece and you get it nailed, and you've photographed, you've nailed it, you want this water splash to be the perfect tint of aqua, and you've got it, and when you're creating this that there's a variance, there's a degree of tolerance between the rods and cones in people's eyes, and the display that they may be viewing it on could be cold or warm or whatever, or even the time of day. So you can calibrate, you can create your image as a median and say, okay, this is the best I can do to satisfy most general audiences. But when that median now shifts over time based on the time of day, how do you ever create something that you can be sure is Aaron Nay's quality? What do you think?
Oh man, that's a good question.
Now you're scared like me.
Yeah, now I'm scared. Use a printer.
Exactly.
Go back to analog. That's what to do. Just go back to analog.
Yeah, it's scary. It's scary shit.
Don't be scared. That's not what it is. As far as
please talk me down off the ledge, man. So, talk me down.
First and foremost, I hope that there is a switch that you can turn off, so it doesn't happen, right?
Yeah.
So what I think it's really there for is that looking at and measuring the temperature of the ambient light, it's going to adjust the monitor so that it closely represents what you would see if you had, let's say, a book in front of you.
Mm-hmm.
So as the temperature warms, the paper doesn't look as white. It doesn't have that blue tonality to it. In fact, it gets warmer and it's more comforting to the eyes. I mean, Aaron said it quite rightly, that Flux is a good example. It takes and adjusts your monitor so that your monitor more closely represents the temperature of the light that you're in.
Mm-hmm.
That's, I think, really what it's doing. It's not changing color. It's only changing temperature. All right.
But that is
Now,
color, though.
it is to some extent, but it's not modifying the underlying image. I mean, if your image has 255 red and 255 blue and whatever else, those don't change. It's only how you see them.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
Right. So it's not modifying anything. Now, you don't want to, and Aaron is absolutely correct. You absolutely don't want to do image editing with an adjusted temperature monitor. I mean, when those temperature changes take place, your eyes are going to naturally want to make it more blue, and now you'll make it too blue, so the next guy who sees it, or when you see it in the morning when the temperature's back to the blue, you'll see horrible blues. So, I mean, it's not for editing. It's really for reading and seeing. And as I say, if we are able to do some good editing on an iPad one day, then there better be a switch that says, turn this ambient light adjustment off.
I know, but Apple, they know what's best for us, and they're going to default that to on, even if there is an on-off switch.
Well, yeah, but Apple does listen, and if you yell loud enough, they'll put a switch in there.
Yeah.
I think there's got to be a switch in there already.
Yeah, I don't know.
But what amazed me more than anything else is the way it was touted. You'll sleep better.
Did they say that? You'll sleep better?
Yes, you'll sleep better. Now the blue won't bother your brain as much, so when you see this yellow, you'll sleep better. Yeah.
Well, hey, you never know. I don't know. It remains to be seen. I've never, both of you guys, I applaud you for being able to crack the color correction nut. The color correction piece of what we do as photographers or retouchers it's been a little bit of voodoo for me, because whenever I look at it, I have this geeky brain, and whenever I look at it, I'm like, well, how can you ever get this right? Because you don't know who's looking at this image or what they're looking at it on, or they may be colorblind in their left eye, or they may have twice as many rods and cones in their eyes than most people. You don't know what, and no one. And the other piece of it is, if you say you give two people the color red and you say look at red, they may be seeing two different things, and you will never know because they can't describe the difference to the other person. Their red may be green looking, and the other person's red may be orange looking, and you will never ever know. So the whole science of color correction, I never understood it. It just seemed like kind of shooting in the dark a little.
It could be a TWiP on its own.
Yeah.
Color management.
Totally, yeah. Aaron, how do you manage this? I mean, you're a pro. I mean, you do Fortune 500 retouching. How do you? What's your process?
Well,
exactly.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you said like, oh, it's hard to make it a science, and I completely agree. I mean, for me, it's not really a science. I mean, it really is like, a lot of it is preference. Like there are many different versions. There was a huge controversy a couple of years ago. Like Beyonce was had one skin tone in one magazine, and she was like a lot lighter in another magazine, and same thing with Shakira. They made her like super pale, in another thing, and it like as far as like what's accurate versus like what looks good versus like cultural preferences, at the end of the day, I don't really know that there is really a science. It seems like it's more based on a preference, and there's a range, I think, of acceptability, and if a person's skin looks too green or too blue, it's going to look pretty off, but I think within that range, it's kind of up to interpretation, and people will see skin tone differently. Everyone will, for sure, but when I'm doing my work, it's a lot of it is just experience, and having like looked at a lot of skin, and I do my best to make sure it looks good. And also, I will still. Just today, I was editing some video, and I got it to where I thought it looked great. I took a break for an hour and a half, and I came back, and I had to make some changes because there was too much green in it. So I would say, if you are correcting skin tone, that's definitely a good test. Is take some time in between your edits and like come back and look at it with fresh eyes.
Now, are both of you guys working on like a dialed-in, color-corrected professional display, or is it kind of off-the-shelf Apple Cinema Display, iMac type stuff?
I use a Cintiq 24 HD Touch, but to Aaron's point, I think the color management piece really is ensuring that the images that you shot in the light and the temperature that you shot it show up exactly the same when you look at it on your monitor, and then when you print it, it prints exactly what it looks like on your monitor. Now, what you do, for skin tones, what you do for color, those are your personal choices and personal preferences.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you feel that somebody's skin looks too pale, it doesn't prevent you from, adjusting that.
Yeah.
Maybe, because you're putting it into a magazine or you're putting it into an ad, you don't want it to look so pale that it looks absurd. So you take your little liberty and say, my liberty is I'm going to warm this skin tone up a little bit.
Yeah.
And you're perfectly within your rights to do it. That's your artistic liberty. But when you see it that color on your screen, you want it to be that color when it's printed. So color management really is a translation of colors from camera to printer, not necessarily translating your personal preferences so somebody else sees it the same way.
Right. Yeah, and I want to comment on that, but Aaron, I wanted to have you chime in. Your workstation, are you using off-the-rack Apple-type displays, or do you have the giant, professional, expensive, color-calibrated machines with hoods on them and all that stuff?
Yeah, I use my primary editing right now is just a Thunderbolt display from Apple, and we calibrate them. Like we have a calibration software and hardware and whatnot. But yeah, I have worked on like pretty nice displays, and they're beautiful. But as far as color goes, I find that their Apple displays are pretty good.
Yeah, and that's what I'm talking to you guys on. That's what I use. I use a Retina iMac, and plugged into it is a Thunderbolt display. And that's my little workstation. It cranks up, works every time. But the other piece, to piggyback on what you were saying, Shiv, was you were saying color correction primarily is a workflow that, with the termination point being the print at the end of the line. But I would argue that that's true. But in today's generation, today's world, most, if not all, I would say most people. You can never say all, but most people are going to be reviewing your work on displays, whether it's on the computer or primarily on a mobile device like an iPad or an iPhone or an Android device or Android tablet, Surface, whatever. That's how people look at stuff these days. Yeah, printing is awesome, but it's never going to have the widespread 10,000 Instagram followers from one contest that Aaron Nace gets, right? So that's what I'm trying to solve for. Like, is that a whack-a-mole problem? Especially with this new Apple technology that's coming out, this new True Tone display that they're putting out, is it now almost an unsolvable kind of piece of mercury that we're chasing around that we can never solve?
I don't know. I mean, I just personally I feel that if anybody's looking at images and if they have a reasonably well calibrated monitor, they'll see pretty much the same colors that you want them to see, right? The Apple displays are very good. I mean, Aaron uses. I use one. In fact, we're on an iMac, 5K display here, and I don't have any problem editing on this initially. But when I'm doing commercial stuff, I'll take it to a more, color accurate and a larger gamut as far as the monitor is concerned.
Yeah.
But really, if you go back to what Apple's doing from a viewing point of view, is it any different than when you hang up a print and the lights are, a little yellow versus somebody who hangs up a print and you've got fluorescence?
Right.
Those differences will always happen. And your eyes do adjust to it to some extent, but may not be. But if you're looking at on a monitor that's reasonably calibrated will show the same colors.
Yeah, you're right. This could be a whole episode in and of itself. Aaron, I'm going to put in a request on Flurn, if you would, on the Flurn request line, if you guys could do something on color correction specifically with an eye towards iOS. I would love that.
Okay. Yeah, that's actually super interesting.
Yes.
I haven't done anything like that.
It's hard. It's scary. All right, guys, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk about David Hobby, also known as the Strobist. He called BS on marketing claims for MagMod's latest Kickstarter project, the MagBeam. This is going to be good.
Yes, it is.
I wish we had David on here.
I know! I'm going to try to get him. That'll be awesome. Get him on. All right, guys.
In.
Yeah. Here. All right, guys, we are back with the last story for this episode of This Week in Photo. David Hobby, also known as Strobist or the Strobist, has called BS on Magbeam's claim. So let me read the little blurb we have in so I can set the stage. Recently, MagMod, the company behind a collection of modifiers that attach to your Flash, announced a Kickstarter project for a new Fresnel Flash modifier that claims to increase the power of your Flash. David Hobby took issue with the way the product was being marketed, pointing out that a Fresnel cannot increase the power of Flash, but only concentrate the beam. Now, since they launched that Kickstarter campaign, MagMod raised nearly $200,000 for this thing, and David Hobby calls it 100% BS. And then you should read. We'll put the link to this story. It came to us from Petapixel. We'll put a link to the story in here. And it's interesting the Twitter back and forth that happens on this. And essentially, I think Bruce Clark, we were at WPPI, and Bruce Clark was telling me about this, and we're walking down the hall on the way to do some interview, and he said, yeah, they come out with this thing that increases your flash power. And I'm thinking, how do you do that? Like, do they have some sort of like dark matter material in there that can somehow bend space and time and create photons where there were none? That's called a light source that creates photons. You can't create photons where there were none. And I think I also said you can only focus them and make it brighter and in a point, but now you're at a point light source and not a large light source. I don't know. Shiv Verma, when you saw this, I know you read this article. Where do you fall on this? Was MagMod out of line, or was David Hobby out of line?
Well, I think MagMod's initial statement is definitely out of line. I mean, you cannot create more light when there isn't more light.
Right.
Right. So that's it. They've retracted that initial statement, and they tried to correct it in a slightly roundabout way. But in reality, I mean, number one, it's nothing really that new. There's a product out there in the market that is uses a Canon 50mm lens or a Canon lens in front of it. It's called a light blaster. Basically, it does pretty much the same thing. It concentrates the light of your strobe into a narrow beam, but you don't generate incremental photons. I mean, that's just, more light cannot be generated when only so much light exists.
Right.
So I agree with David Hobby. And I think maybe he was a little bit too harsh in the way he stated it, but he's correct. You cannot create more light from the same light.
Yeah, it's like, it reminds me of Genesis. You guys, I'm a Star Trek geek, right? So Genesis, the Project Genesis was, they had this device that could create life from lifelessness,
Oh.
And they dropped the bomb on a dead planet, and suddenly it had water and trees and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, MagMod is the Genesis project. It's coming back. I don't know, Aaron Nace, what do you think? Light from lightlessness, is it possible?
I really like David Hobby's Twitter feed. He's got a picture of like an extension cord, like a power adapter, like a power strip.
Yeah.
Plugged into itself. On there, it's like
awesome. That's why I love that guy.
I was like, yeah.
I didn't see that. Yes.
Yeah, he wins.
He wins.
Yeah, but it's so funny. I mean, people, as evidenced by the fact that they raised nearly $200,000 for this, people didn't grok the fact that you can't do that. I mean, you can't create. And I want to, in defense of MagMod, they are a fantastic company. They make some really quality light modifiers. So I don't think there was, I think it was a mistake in the way that they worded it, but I don't think that they were purposely going out there to mislead the public and try to scrape up a bunch of money, because in the photography community we all have big mouths and somebody's going to call BS on it, right, like David Hobby did, right? So I think it was a mistake. I don't think it was malicious. They had malicious intent, but still, if you read through this chronology after David called them out, they took a long time for them to say, oh, okay, let's reword that on our sales page. I don't know.
Yeah, to some extent, I think you're generating Kickstarter income, right? And you don't want to stop that. That you're on a good roll. Just stay with it. respond a little late, and you'll collect another $50,000, or maybe, I don't know.
Yeah.
But I mean, there's nothing new. I mean, Fresnel lenses we used. There's a product you probably had it before in one of your shows. It's called the Better Beamer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
So the Better Beamer is a good similar kind of product. It just concentrates the light. They started talking about it. Oh, you extend the reach. I mean, light has infinite reach, right? Mm-hmm. Light doesn't stop. It just but so there was a slightly false statement over there, but the product did very well and still doing very well.
Yeah.
And so hopefully, I mean, Magmod, you're right. They make great products. Yeah, the whole concept is good. The attachability is good, and hopefully this product is a success. But I think it's a misstatement on their part, and if it worked to bring more Kickstarter money in, good for them.
Yeah, and I know after this, I'm going to go get one of my extension cords and plug it into itself and see if I can generate some energy. That would bring my electric bill down. I'll just go buy a bunch of extension cords. Yeah. But on this, all joking aside, on this, so Aaron, I want to ask you this. So on the heels of this whole idea of light, like Shiv, you're saying light is, it doesn't stop. Photons generally go at 386,000 miles per second, and they will keep going until acted upon by something else, and even then they'll either bounce or disperse, right? So the thing that I wanted to get to is quality of light. So we have, both of you guys have worked with, I'm sure, low-end gear and ultra-high-end gear, and in terms of lighting gear, the high-end gear, the claims are always that it's a better quality of light that you're getting out of this high-end gear versus the cheaper the lower price gear. For example, the Alien Bees Paul C. Buff gear on the kind of mid-range to low end in terms of pricing, and on the high end you have Profoto and all those guys up there. Are the photons different, Aaron, that are coming out of the $3,000 per head gear versus the $300? Is it a different kind of photon that I don't know about, or is it the same photon?
I'm pretty sure it's the same.
Uh-oh, you heard it here first. There's only one kind of photon.
It travels at the same speed.
It travels at exactly the same speed. You're paying for what? Well, in defense, again, of the higher-end guys, you're paying for quality in the product itself. That's, so you're going to have something that's going to last forever, and you can travel with it, and it's rugged. But in terms of the quality of light that's coming out of that, the only thing that determines that, quote, quality of light or the specularity or diffuseness is the modifier on front of that light source and how much light that element is putting out. So you can get brighter, and you can diffuse it more, but it's still the same photons. Like people that are like, oh, I'm going to save up $3,000 to buy this ultimate Profoto gear, skipping over the cheaper stuff because that'll make me a better photographer, when they could do awesome stuff with inexpensive things, to get started with. So
getting started with, and Profotos and Broncolors. I mean, Profoto is still a baby compared to what Broncolor does. Yeah. But I think their quality. I think when they talk about quality of light, it's not really what we define as quality of light. They're talking about consistency.
Okay.
That's really what they're talking about. I mean, it's that there's like no variation in color, temperature. There's no variation in the light output. So if you measure 5.6 on your Sekonic meter, it'll remain 5.6 10 a.m. to 11 p.m. That's really the quality that's being referred to.
Repeatable.
But you're right. Absolutely, it's the modifiers that do it. Nothing else.
No, you hit it right on the head. Yeah, and I think Paul Buff, when I interviewed him a couple of years ago, may he rest in peace, Paul Buff did say that one of the differences between the Einstein head, which I think at the time, I don't know if it still is, but it was their top-of-the-line head versus some of the lower-end heads, was consistency of color and power output. Right. So you could be sure that, if you did 2,500 shots, number one is going to be the same exposure and color temperature as number 2,500.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Aaron, has that been your experience as well? The whole consistency of color, or does that play into your work at all?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, as far as lights go, and our studio is we use Paul C. Buff stuff, so we've got Einsteins and things like that. Yeah. I mean, they work, right?
Yeah, I love them. That's what I have. I have Einstein's as well.
For sure. Yeah, we've I've used Profoto, I've used just about everything else, and yeah, I think at the end of the day, it's build quality, it's things like reliability. Some of the higher end systems have like shorter flash durations, which can be really nice depending on what you're doing if you're trying to freeze motion and things like that. And then really it comes down to the modifiers as well. To be honest, it's all what you want out of the photo. I've taken really, really cool photos that were just bare bulb. I've taken really cool photos, in natural light. I've taken really cool photos with, just a simple umbrella setup, and I've taken really cool photos with 10 lights and gels and modifiers and all that. So, at the end of the day, you can take really any light source and create an incredible image out of it. So, just
as long as you know what you're doing.
Yeah, as long as you know what you're doing, but it's well, that's when you go to places like Flurn.com to get an education on
how to do it,
pattern fetching and inspiration from the crazy stuff that Aaron's doing over there. No, that's really good. I mean, I don't know. I'm on the fence in terms of I'm not on the fence. I'm on the Alien Bees / Einstein side of the fence when it comes to gear. I think I would probably always buy that stuff, even if I had a giant, studio like some people on the show have. But I think you look at some of the photographers that I talk to, and they swear by the pro photo stuff. And I find that most of the people that swear by that stuff, they're excellent photographers, but they may not have used anything else. They may have just, that's what I learned on, so that's what I'm going to use forever. I learned on, and Brooks, I do some stuff for Brooks Institute. They have pro photo gear down there, so all the students that leave there probably are going to go buy pro photo stuff, and anything less than that is, you're not a real photographer if you're using that. So I don't know. It's interesting. Again, I'm sounding like an old man. In my day, we had Alien Bees, and we liked it.
And we liked them, dang it.
We liked them. All right, guys.
Actually, old man, I used white lightnings that were older than Alien Bees.
I remember those.
I have those.
You have those?
I still use white lightnings. They still work.
Are they still selling those? They're still selling them, right? You can still buy white lightnings.
I don't know.
Those are like the long black ones, right? They're like with the metal. Yeah, those are nice. Yeah.
They're solid.
Yeah, I still have them. I haven't sent a single white lightning in for repair, and actually, I send Einsteins in for repair quite a bit. So I kind of like the white lightnings.
Interesting, and they're cheaper too, huh? Yeah.
Well, they weren't back then.
They were, yeah. I don't know. We have to look into that. We'll put a link in the show notes to white lightnings and Alien Bees and Profoto just to balance it out. All right, guys. Let's jump into the Picks of the Week segment. This is the segment where you guys can recommend to the TWiP watchers / listeners something related to photography. I'm going to let you go first. Mr. Shiv Verma, what is your pick of the week?
It's kind of funny that when I put it into the show notes, I didn't know we were going to talk about color to this extent. But
good.
My pick of the week is this new, not that new, but it's a color checker passport for video.
Okay, nice.
And, it allows you to do color grading. You do need a plugin. I mean, it doesn't have its own software that'll do, profiles like the one that they have for photos. But for the video, you need, another plugin. I think the plugin also works with the Adobe Premiere Pro, but I use Final Cut, and it's really good. It's called Color Finale, and what it allows you to do is to really take this profile, the color piece, and identify the corners, and as long as the glossy black does not have any reflections, you will get very accurate color. And even, if you shoot Vlog, it'll do it. So I don't know, Aaron, do you use this?
I'm going to now.
Yeah.
I've been manually color correcting, our video for some time.
Yeah, it is so cool. It's just, and it's fast. So all you do is you pick the 4 corners, make sure that the circles are in the right squares, and then drag that on top of your video clip. Done.
That's cool.
Yeah, I'm buying that tonight.
Do you guys? Yeah, so am I. So am I. You guys remember? Was it called Gray Tag Macbeth? You guys remember that color chart? It looked like that, and I still have one in the garage there. It's a large version of that you put in the first couple of frames of your scene when you're doing still photography and model photography or whatever. And it gives you a point of reference, what's white, what's true black, and all that.
Right. Greytag was bought out by X-Rite. And so X-Rite now, Greytag used to have that I1 profiler. And now it's the X-Rite I1 profiler. The big unit, which is the I1 Profiler Pro 2, is about $1,200-$1,500. But these the Color Checker Passport, the photo one is about $99, and I think this is $129.
Okay.
And then this combined with the plugin, which is about $99, you have the simplest video solution for color grading. One step.
I like that. I like one step thing. That's good. Well, cool. All right. Well, we'll put a link to that in the show notes. And you said, what's the price of that again?
I think it's $129.
$129. Okay. Cool. Yeah, $129 is a small price to pay if it means saving you a couple of hours in terms of trying to move sliders back and forth to get the color to look right. Especially if you're creating, your color grading for something that's going to go on a True Tone display.
There we go.
I like to bring things full circle. I'm a dog with a bone. I don't know. All right, Shiv, thanks a lot for that. I appreciate it. All right, Aaron Nace, what is your pick of the week, my friend?
My pick of the week is called the GripTight GorillaPod Magnetic. It's basically just, there it is. It's a GorillaPod for your iPhone that has like one of these like extenders or mobile phone, whatever. Has an extender, grips your mobile phone. Recently, I went on a trip to Mexico, and I got a new iPhone before I left on the trip, and I created a ton of stock footage for a video that I'm in the process of editing and working together. And this thing was just like, man, it was perfect. I wore a little vest while I was on the trip and kept the thing in my pocket just the entire time. And we did all kinds of really cool shots, from like time lapse to like pictures of friends, things like that. And it's just for $40, the magnetic part, didn't really use that much, but as far as like just having something small and portable with you that can allow you to do time lapse and just really cool photos.
And it's little too. Yeah, looking at it next to the iPhone there, it's relative. And that little clamp there just clamps on the side. It's spring loaded.
Yeah, it's spring loaded, and it actually that clamp has like a quick release from the head as well, so you can break the thing apart in like 2 seconds, put both parts in your pocket, and put them back together really quick. And it's just
so what's the magnetic part? What's the magnetic part, Aaron?
So the red feet are magnetic. So if you can stick them on a car, you can stick them on. I didn't have much luck with like putting them on the side of a pole or something like that. But let's say you had like a large iron surface, you can definitely hold an iPhone with just the magnetic feet on there. So it'll wrap around a tree, it'll wrap around a post, things like that. Cool. The magnetic thing I did a couple times with like pictures of a couple friends, me and a couple of friends. I stuck it on a car that was parked on the side of the street. We went out in the street, like everyone with their arm around each other. Yeah, we're having fun, and put the phone on a timer, went back, pulled it off, and you're good to go.
Awesome.
All right, Shiv, I can tell you're about to buy this thing, aren't you?
It looks pretty interesting.
Yeah, it looks cool. Yeah, I actually have one of these, Aaron, and you're right. It stays in my camera bag, and it's indispensable, especially when you have all this cool stuff on your phone, like you said, the time lapse, and say you want to actually be in the photo from time to time instead of just being the tripod for the photo. So it makes all that stuff possible, and you just being able to sit there and you're having dinner, put your phone on time lapse mode and let it sit there while you're eating, capturing the surroundings, and you play that back later. It just gives you much more of a, albeit consumer, and I'm talking about time lapse. I forgot, in front of the guy that wrote the book on time lapse. Now my tail's between my legs. But
but I like the fact that you like to time lapse what you eat. I mean, that's a good one.
No. Actually, I did do that. I did do that overseas. I did a time lapse of the group that I was sitting with destroying a lunch because we all or a dessert. We all shared a dessert, and no one wanted to order one on their own, so we ordered one and shared it. And then imagine like 7 spoons going into this dessert and just eviscerating it over time.
Was this Vietnam?
This was Vietnam. Yes, this was Vietnam.
All right.
So yeah, good stuff. Good stuff. All right, guys, those were 2 good picks of the week. So good that I don't even need to do one because you guys are amazing.
No, we need your pick.
I don't have a pick this week. I do have a pick, but it's not ready for me to reveal yet. So
another one of those?
It's another one of those.
I'll let you know in another week.
It's another one of those. It's going to cost you money when I reveal it. So I still need to do some testing. I will give a slight pick, though. So a slight pick would be, I think when the thing first came out, it's back there, I'm pointing to it. It's the DJI Osmo, OSMO, the handheld.
You've already done that.
Yeah, the gimbal stabilized camera. I have that, and it's awesome. One of the issues with it was up to day before yesterday was the head would drift over time, and even worse, the audio would fall out of sync over time. So if you did something longer than, say, 10 minutes, by the end of it, it would look like an old Godzilla movie, So they've issued a firmware update yesterday or day before yesterday that corrected that and added a bunch of cool new features in there. So everything that's old about the Osmo is new again. Now it's actually usable. So that would be my pick. It was usable before, but only for B-roll. Now it's usable for actual. B-roll. You can actually get good audio out of it that you can sync, to primary audio.
Nice.
Yeah. So I'm very happy DJI is on the ball with that.
So you're going to take it to Mexico?
Oh yeah, that thing's coming to Mexico. That's coming, and the drone is coming. I'm bringing all kinds of goodies down there. Hopefully, I'll come back with everything. As in I don't want to crash my drone somewhere. but yeah, I'm bringing all the toys. All the toys are going to Mexico with me. All right, guys, we are at the end of another episode. We're right at the top of the hour. Aaron Nace, thank you for coming on, my friend. It's good to have you here. What's coming up in your world that you would like people to know about?
Man, I'm so excited. We are releasing this week, basically we're re-releasing the first Flurn Pro tutorial we ever created. Super excited. It's the flood. It's one of my favorite personal images that I've ever shot. It's a girl on a staircase with an actual flood around her. And yeah, we recorded. This was our very first pro tutorial 5 years ago, and we're a totally different company now and doing things to a much higher level. So we're basically we're releasing it from the ground up, and that release is this. Well, it releases tomorrow, but I think this airs like Friday. So
Friday, yeah.
So it will already be released.
It released yesterday.
Awesome. Back to the Future. Cool. And you're giving it to us you doing a discount for us on it?
Yeah, that's right. TWiP 20 is 20% off of the Flood Pro tutorial for TWiP listeners, and yeah, we're really excited about it. It's man, it's one of my favorite images ever. So I'm super excited to see it come back to life.
I need to check my Flurn library and see if I don't own that already. If I don't own it, I'm buying it tonight. So.
Deal. At 20% off. TWiP.
I'll use TWiP 20 and get my 20% off and support Flurn. Very cool, man. Anything else? What else is happening?
Well, we've got our Instagram contests that are going super well. And, oh, yeah, in the show notes, we just did, this was so cool. I got to work with my dream client recently. We actually got hired by Adobe to create tutorials for their products, which has been a dream of mine, since the beginning, making Photoshop tutorials. And this go-round, we got to work with them for their mobile apps, Adobe Fix and Adobe Mix. So we've got a couple, short trailer, like commercials / tutorials, and we're linking to those in the notes. So shot those a couple months ago, and they just launched this week. So yeah,
cool.
I'm
Congratulations! I'm gonna check those out. I haven't looked at those yet. I'm gonna look at them tonight, but I saw the email that you sent out that was announcing that. So congratulations on doing work with the big A. That's a big deal.
We got a lot of slack for it on YouTube. People are like, "You're selling out," like, "Oh, you're working with Adobe now," like, "Oh, what are these mobile apps? They're not as good as Photoshop." And I'm like, "Psh, Come on, guys.
Oh, you're so as like indie bands that actually get signed by labels, right?
Yeah.
Come on.
No matter what you do, it isn't good enough.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. You're like,
Not to mention,
Do it.
Aaron is giving away like 25 terabytes of free stuff, and he does a couple of tutorials, and now he's the Antichrist. You know, come on.
they're free, and the apps are free too. So like, no one is selling anything here, but still, backlash.
Wild.
Whatever. All right, well, good, man. Congratulations on that. Yeah, we'll definitely link to that in the
Thank
notes.
you.
That's awesome, Aaron. Absolutely
Thank
awesome, yeah.
And then that Flern contest is just hashtag Flern contest. And how do they find out what the topic of the contests are and all that?
Yeah, so if you go to Flern Instagram, subscribe to Flern at PHLEARN. Every single Monday we post a new image. It has it like on the image itself. It always says like hashtag Flern contest and hashtag this week is Flern animals. So if you upload your photo featuring an animal to hashtag Flern contest, hashtag Flern animals, each week we pick 3 different winners and we send those people $50 gift certificates to Flern just for posting a couple hashtags on your Instagram. So it's a really super simple, easy way to enter, and it's a lot of fun too because we also, if we choose you as a winner, we repost your image to our followers, so we can help like build your following as well. So it's a cool way for us to like really give back to the people who follow Flern. So yeah, it's real fun.
Really cool. That's really cool. I'm gonna check that out. I'm really interested in that hashtag, running a contest on Instagram using hashtags. It sounds like a brilliant kind of, I don't know, cold fusion ecosystem you build there. We'll call it social cold fusion. That's very cool. All right. And Shiv Verma, what about you, sir? What's coming up for you?
I put a little list of 3 things, and it's really my travel workshops. And I think more important, I want people to focus in on 2 of the workshops in 2017, with the rest of them to follow. 2016 is going great. Iceland's got a few spots left. But 2017 should be very exciting, and I want to get folks to start looking at those.
That's cool.
So
That's cool. You need to write a travel photography book or something. Like best ways to get around in Iceland or something like that.
Well, I'm just waiting for you to get back to your travel photography podcast. That should be an interesting one.
It's coming. It's in the birth canal. We'll say that.
Excellent. Excellent.
I like that.
It's finished gestating, and now it just needs to,
It just needs to happen, right?
It just needs to happen. Well, cool, guys. This has been a great show. Thanks to both of you for coming on.
Well, thank you.
Scary conversation about color correction. Aaron, like I said, hopefully Flern will dig into it and get to the bottom of this and set our minds at ease. So TWiP listeners, head over to flern.com and subscribe and give Aaron crap if he hasn't put out that tutorial. Because I need to know what the right way to proceed is. All right, and I want to thank our sponsor, FreshBooks. Look at that.
Where are you going?
Siri is interrupting me. She says, "I'm sorry, I can't take all those words at one time." All right, Siri. All right, back to the show. I want to thank our sponsor for this episode, and that's FreshBooks. And also be sure to visit our website at thisweekinphoto.com, and you can follow us on Twitter and Facebook, and also soon, I guess, Aaron, Instagram. And you can also comment, like, and subscribe to us on YouTube. And with that, it is time to take that lens cap off.